Okay, I've got a little story to tell, a little New Year's Day story that's going to tie in. So I was going to go to the Winter Classic. I was planning to go. I stayed over at a friend's place in Seattle after New Year's Eve because we were planning to just head down there the next day and go to the game. We were saying, okay, we don't have tickets yet. They're not that expensive, but they might be a little bit out of the range we want to pay price-wise. So we said before the game, we'll just head down there, hang out, and then we'll buy tickets when it gets closer to game time. We have a friend from ASU who is an expert with this stuff, and I was trying to take a page right out of his book. Well, it turns out my friend and his girlfriend that he was going with the day before got tickets from somebody at their work. And I didn't realize it till I saw him that night. And they said, yeah, we actually ended up getting tickets for a really good deal. They only had 2. I was like, well, that's kind of unfortunate, but I guess I'll just buy my own ticket, figure it out from there. I get up on the morning of New Year's Day. Tickets say they're at about starting price $140. After fees, they're a little more than that. I was like, okay, it's about 7:45, 8 o'clock. The game doesn't start till 12. It'll go down. So we head down to Seattle. We're hanging out. We stop at a breakfast place. We stopped at a couple of the bars down by the stadium beforehand. And I'm just waiting for it to go down. I'm waiting for it to go down. It's not going down as fast as I was hoping it would. And usually this does happen. Like, these guys have to get rid of tickets, these ticketing sites, before they just don't sell them anymore. So I figured at some point they'll go down, right? And they didn't. I sat at the bar for what ended up being most of the game, because when the game started, tickets had gone up to $200. I was like, well, what just happened? That doesn't make any sense. Then in the first period, I'm like, well, if I go in the middle of the first period, it's not a big deal. Then it's gone up to $300. This is the cheapest ticket, by the way. And then by the end of the first period, it said it was $400 to go to the Winter Classic. So starting price, both on December 30th, New Year's Eve, morning and New Year's Day, was about $180 to $200. I was hoping to get it somewhere between $100 to $140. And then by the end of the first period, it was $400. So I said, you know what? It may not be in the cards. So if you want to know how my New Year's got started, that's how it got started, by a failed plan that was not executed. So how unfortunate.
Man, you gambled. And it's almost as much of a gamble as what came out of the Winter Classic Mariners-wise, Lyle. It was, do you want to say this? 'Cause I was going to tie this in to your gamble and the potential gamble that could be.
Go ahead.
Well, it was tweeted out, and it was made very apparent that James Paxton was sitting in the owner's suite at T-Mobile Park watching the hockey game and watching the Winter Classic. And it's like, why would it be public information that James Paxton is specifically sitting in the Mariners owner's suite for the Winter Classic? It's like, well, he's Canadian. He likes hockey. No, I don't think he's just there because he likes hockey. I think he's there because the Mariners might be interested in him. And I'm going to tell you, Lyle, if they're interested in him, if they're interested in James Paxton, that is a gamble right there. That is, you're stepping up to the blackjack table and the dealer has a face card. And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it could go one of two ways. And I will say, there could be people sitting there saying, oh, well, is James Paxton either just visiting, or is he there because he has residence in Seattle? Which, as far as I know, don't quote me on this, and I'm not going to sit here and confirm it, but I'm pretty sure James Paxton still spends time in Seattle in the offseason. Whether he still lives here or just spends a chunk of time here each offseason, he does still have ties to Seattle as far as I'm concerned. So you could say, well, maybe he went to the Winter Classic because, like you said, Canadian roots, likes hockey, wanted to check out a cool event. But no, it wasn't just he was at the game. He wasn't sitting in section 130 with a bunch of his family. He wasn't sitting out in the crowd. No, he's up in the owner's suite. So that says, oh, there's something here. It's not like James Paxton and John Stanton go back ways and ways and ways. And I should say the Mariners' whole ownership group, to the point where, oh, let's kick back, have a couple beers, watch a couple hockey games. No, that's not what's going on. There is a reason he's sitting up in that owner's suite. And to your point, yeah, it would be a gamble. Because as we know, James Paxton is high risk, but high reward. Was
Blake Snell up there too? Hopefully.
Something tells me James Paxton was okay with the catered food they had up there, but maybe Blake Snell said, you know what? Could I get a can I get a lobster lunch here at this Winter Classic? And the Mariners said, well, no, which would be very on brand to the Mariners approach, or the Mariners ownership's approach to this offseason, saying, oh, left-handed starter James Paxton, left-handed starter Blake Snell, one could be on a 1-year, $8 to $12 million deal. One's going to cost about $200 million. Who would we like to host for the Winter Classic? I'm going to pick James Paxton.
Did Blake Snell even get the invite? I don't think so. Blake Snell was probably sitting in the crowd instead, unfortunately. And if some people are wondering the source of this information, it was tweeted by Chad Day, and you might be wondering, well, who the fuck is that? I've never heard of Chad Day before. He doesn't have a check mark. It wasn't Jeff Passan who tweeted it. It wasn't even John Morosi who tweeted it. It wasn't Ken Rosenthal who tweeted it. No, it was Chad Day. And he's not a reporter or anything. And if you scroll through his Twitter timeline, you won't really pick up on much. But I think the one thing you can pick up on is that I'm pretty sure that dude knows James Paxton, because guess who was first on the reporting when James Paxton went back to Seattle in 2021? Oh, yeah, it was Chad Day. He was first. It was Jeff Passan and Ken Rosenthal giving Chad Day credit for breaking that news. Now, I'm guessing if he knew that James Paxton, again, specifically noted that he's in the owner's suite, specifically, that information was given to be made public. This isn't a scoop. This is given to be made public, that something is happening. And there could be a lot cascading after that, should something happen. But there's a lot of layers to this, Lau. If we were talking about layers earlier, there is layers to this. The first question we need to ask ourselves is that, would you be okay with the Mariners signing James Paxton? Lau, would you be okay with the Mariners signing James Paxton?
I would, because it's probably not going to be a ton of money. It's probably not going to be some huge contract. It would be the idea that he could pitch at the back end of the rotation or potentially serve as some depth. So in that way, yes, I would. And if you want to double down from the Chad Day report here very quickly, well, first off, if you check Chad Day's Twitter, most of his tweets are about James Paxton. He doesn't tweet a lot. Most of them are James Paxton related. So just scroll his Twitter feed and you'll see, yeah, these guys are tied together. Along with then today, Tuesday, when we're recording this, Chris Cotillo, who's one of the Red Sox beat reporters, he reported the Red Sox have talked to Paxton about a return, but it looks like the Mariners are in play for him again. So now we've got a real report coming from a real beat reporter. So along with the Chad Day tweet, you've got somebody from the Red Sox now also basically confirming this, saying, oh, this is picking up traction and steam. So this is real. And yes, I'm okay with James Paxton because, one, he's familiar with the team, with the organization. He knows Jerry and Scott. He's played for him. And when he's healthy, and I know that's a big if, he can serve as a very, very productive back-end starter if he is on the field.
You caught yourself there at reliable, because he has been anything but reliable since he essentially pitched in New York for the 2019 season. That was his last full major league season. He pitched a portion of the 2020 season. Then he threw a third of an inning. Yeah, it was a third of an inning in the 2021 season with the Mariners. So he's only thrown 20 and 2/3 innings from 2020, 2021, and 2022. 20 and 2/3. That's it, period. He came back last season. He was still dealing with some injuries, but he managed to come back and pitch 96 innings in 2023. And for most of those innings, he was pretty good. He had a pretty bad second half before he finished out the season with injuries. He still can pitch when he's healthy. He 100% still can pitch when he's healthy. So here's something that makes you optimistic. He was healthy his first 9 starts of the 2023 season. 31% strikeout rate, 2.70 ERA in 50 innings. That's elite. That's elite stuff right there. That's top of the line starter stuff. But then in the innings following that, after that, in the second half, 6.46 ERA, just an 18% strikeout rate. And over that, a lot of it came from a 9 2/3 inning stretch where he gave up 16 earned runs, and then he went on the IL with knee inflammation, which would probably be a reason for that. But again, over those final innings of the season, the final 46 innings of the season, he went from elite starter to bad starter. If you're going to pick those two sample sizes, it's the question you have to ask yourself as a Mariners fan is, which sample am I buying? I'm going to guess the 46 innings he sucked, he was hurt. That would be my guess. The problem with James Paxton is that he is hurt a lot. He had a number of injuries last season.
And it could be, part of it could be he was hurt, and part of it could be, too, the fatigue of coming back from a Tommy John surgery maybe started to wear on him in the second half as well. And I know he didn't throw that many innings, but when you throw less than 25 innings over the course of 3 seasons, that's going to happen when you throw a 96-inning season. You are going to start to get tired because it's been a long time since you've had a full workload. Here's the one other concern I have about Paxton, and everybody knows about the injury history. We could spend more time on that, but I think that's well noted. He hasn't exactly been a dominate the zone guy since he left Seattle. He has walked more guys substantially since he lost Seattle. And it's not out of control, but when you look, 16, 17, 18, when he was still in Seattle, he was walking less than 3 per 9. Then since he left, it's gone up. It's over 3 per 9. I don't know if that's a huge concern to Jerry and Justin or to anybody in the front office, or maybe it's just me overblowing this. I just did happen to see, okay, along with good stuff, and he's going to strike a lot of guys out, he's starting to get a little bit more erratic with his command.
It could be the organizations he goes to, and it might not be as much of a priority of the Red Sox and the Yankees that he avoids walks at all cost or have a catchy catchphrase. I used the word catch there twice, like control the zone. And instead, James Paxton is just going out there spinning the best stuff he possibly can. I don't think that's a real deal breaker, especially as the podcast has been sitting on a tree all offseason screaming, "Sign Blake Snell!"
All right, you got a fair point with that.
So
listen. Like I said toward the start of the pod, I am very open to signing James Paxton if I'm the Mariners. I'm just noting his walk rate has risen a little bit since he's left Seattle.
Now, if you sign James Paxton, that 5 spot, again, that 5 spot will be occupied by Paxton and then probably Robbie Ray. Who else? Where's the other pitchers going? We'll get to that in a second. But think of this. This is how your 5 spot would be structured. You would be hoping you can get a good half season out of James Paxton, and then your Robbie Ray's coming back after the All-Star break, and because you're paying him a lot of money, he's definitely going back in that spot. And you would essentially be having 2 pitchers that you're going to need to be very careful with when it comes to making sure they don't get hurt. Like, remember, Robbie Ray is going to be however many months off of Tommy John, but he's still going to be fresh off rehab. And when those guys are fresh off rehab, you don't extend them all the way. Robbie will be probably on a pitch limit, an innings limit over the final 2 months of the season while they're going to monitor him very carefully and make sure he gets to the offseason healthy. And with James Paxton's injury history, that's going to be the exact same thing. So there's going to be a microscope on that number 5 spot that, like, can we get 32 healthy starts out of James Paxton and Robbie Ray? If the answer to that question is yes, then I think you make this signing, because what will happen after this, I think, will benefit the Mariners now and in the future.
I would throw Emerson Hancock into that 5 spot too, but he's got the same issues that Paxton and Ray do in the sense that he has endured injuries. So that's 3 guys who could occupy the spot. And by signing James Paxton, you are not putting a ton of pressure on Emerson Hancock, a guy who's made 3 big league starts and has had injury problems of his own, to be that guy at the back end of the rotation. But if things go the way they usually go in a season where you need a lot of starting pitching, we will probably see Emerson Hancock at some point in the majors throwing in the rotation for the Mariners in 2024. So if you want to throw him into the mix too, I would, but you need these guys to be healthy.
Now, if this signing gets made, like, let's just be flat out and simple. Someone's getting traded.